You're live.
Hey everyone, it is Ron Beleno here, and greetings to all of you joining us from around the world. Today, we have a great session. We are going to be talking about staying connected. I'm Ron Beleno. I am the co-chair for AgeWell's Older Adult and Caregiver Advisory Committee. And we got a bunch of speakers here, not a bunch, but a few, that will be talking about the challenge area that AgeWell has, which we have 8 of them. And today it's on staying connected. Our speakers today, we have Michael Chrostowski from AgeWell. We have Matilde Cervantes from the University of Victoria and Paul Green from CanAssist. And we also have Hector Perez from the University of Waterloo. But first, greetings to all of you. I'm looking through the chat here. I saw someone from, I think that was Mexico. So greetings to Salma. I think you're the furthest so far that I'm seeing here. So welcome, Salma. Nova Scotia, Sarah, greetings. I know that there's Paul Lee here. Isabella, good to see you here again. And the rest of you, Kareen. But hi, everyone. So just type in the chat. I think many of you know how to do this already. But there is also a Q&A that we will go over as well. Hey, Sherry, Diana, and Nancy. Greetings. And Lee. Oh, hi, Lee. Okay, so just to give you some updates here of what's going to be happening. Right now, you're attending the EPIC conference, and it's been running for 10 days, and there are 2 days left. So if you got to see some of it already, I'm sure you've enjoyed it. But there's still 2 more days, so you could attend the other sessions happening. The challenge area presentations will continue to take place here on Crowdcast from 1 to 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. That's the time over here in Toronto where I'm at, but you can adjust it to your time. On Friday, June the 10th, our partner Mira is hosting the panel Bridging the Digital Divide, Equity in Aging, Health and Technology, followed by a Star Institute panel, Get Published, and finally, the EPIC conference closing will be at the end of the week as well. So I encourage you to check out the AgeWell EPIC conference webpage for additional details and registration, which I believe might be posted here. Okay. So a few housekeeping items as well. Today's session will be comprised of 3 presentations, okay, about 10 minutes each with a 5-minute Q&A following each session. And we'll conclude with general Q&A that aims to place the presentations in a larger discourse and addresses potential research impacts. So you could ask a Q&A throughout. I'll do my best to kind of get some of those during that session for those 5 minutes, but we can continue those at the end as well. Okay. All attendees are encouraged to use the Ask a Question box to ask questions and leave a comment. You could also leave a comment on a question and upvote, okay, questions that others have submitted. So anything that probably gets more of these, I think they're thumbs that come up. I'll actually try and get to those as priority. Okay. And this session is being recorded and will be available for playback. And those links to the playback will be on Crowdcast and on the EPIC conference site when it's ready there. Okay. So just a suggestion, if you can, share that link to others so that they can know more about AgeWell and especially this topic about staying connected. It is one where, connection, as we all know, especially the past few years, has been a huge deal to help, older adults and the caregivers or their care partners have a better quality of life. Personally, on my end, many of you know, or those who know me as a past caregiver to a dad with Alzheimer's, one of the challenges that I had was the ability to stay connected myself as a caregiver to my community. And I lost some connections, but I gained many more along the way. For my parents, my dad who had Alzheimer's for over 10 years, the challenge for him was, some of the people in his world had difficulties staying connected to him. This was pre-pandemic times. as well as my mom, the caregiver. So that ability to just, let's just say, and when I say connection, I'm talking about not just a simple phone call. It's the ability to support in many ways, the ability to be a listening ear, the ability to give advice, the ability to maybe just get through activities of daily living. For example, just getting supplies back and forth to someone. That's challenges that we all deal with, but especially for those that are older adults and caregivers, that are going through their challenges. It is one where we need better solutions. We need to always improve upon this. And again, we have this window of opportunity, okay, now that we're kind of coming out of the pandemic, hopefully, that we in this community of older adults and caregiving, those that are focusing on age tech, can push our solutions forward much better and much faster. So that is the challenge that I'm actually going to bring to everybody listening in here today, is no matter where you're at, again, if you're in another country like Mexico, East Coast of Canada to the West Coast, how do we stay connected to older adults and caregivers along the way with various tools and solutions? Okay, so that is something. I'm just curious here. What does staying connected mean for you? Okay, so yeah, that was posted. Would be curious what that means to some of you, if some of you have a sentence or a phrase, or even some solutions of how you were able to stay connected over the past few years. And do me a favor, don't put Zoom in, okay? Don't put video conferencing. That's an obvious one. You're already here. But other ways of how we stayed connected, or we can stay connected moving forward. I know, I know someone here is a fan, Lee St. James, for example. I'm going to do a plug for you there. Robots, the ability to bring in some robots. It's not for everybody, but there is a crowd that would love to have some robots just to be able to maybe follow mom and dad around, okay, with their permission. Okay, we got to also talk about the good and the bad that come with technology and innovations. But so Lee, I believe, could be telepresent robots. Okay, could be something as simple as the old way. I don't know how many of you have written a letter in a while, and send it off to someone, just to send off a card to someone. That I love. Sometimes it's not just high tech; it's the low tech solutions. So there's a fair bit there, but keep typing that in. Again, greetings to a few of you as well. I see Ottawa here. Nancy, awesome. A two-way street. Set goals. Post. I'm trying to figure that out. Post my Bubble 8 on my fridge with phone numbers. Bubble 8. Never heard of that there. Curious about that. What else is there? Okay, so anyways, so just keep typing in the chat, and we're going to get started here with our first speaker here, which is actually Dr. Michael Chrostowski. So Dr. Michael Chrostowski, a PhD, is the Business Development and Industry Relations Manager over at AgeWell, Canada's Technology and Aging Network, where he works with researchers, startups, and industry partners to help AgeWell bring innovations into the lives of older Canadians and caregivers. Dr. Chrostowski has spent the last 12 years working in the area of health and technology, and has a passion for supporting innovators. And just on a personal note, I'm a big fan of Michael over the years, been a supporter of the work of many people, and has made many connections as well along the way with industry partners and older adults and caregivers. So Michael, I'm sure you can chat a little bit about that as well. So over to you, Michael.
Sure. Thanks so much, Ron. The sense of being a fan, it actually goes in the other direction, and I've definitely been inspired by Ron's ability to connect people and try to do that. So thanks for a kind introduction. As Ron mentioned, my role at AgeWell is often to connect people, and that's connecting researchers, startups, as well as our partners, mainly from industry, but also others, trying to help them figure out where they can benefit from the kinds of innovations that arise from our network, and see if we can get them implemented in settings like those in long-term care, home care, or community settings as well. And that's something doing a lot more of these days, including with some of the technologies that I'll be talking about today. So really what I just want to chat with you about and present to you is to give you a sense of some examples of startups in AgeWell Startup Affiliate Program that we've seen helping to connect older adults, both before and during the pandemic, and just to give you a sense of how these technologies are able to do that, and as well where they have learned from older adults and their development. So I'll just go on to the next slide now and get started. What I'll just quickly say is, as you already know, we work across the continuum with different technologies, and often these days, even when I have meetings with people do tend to think of age tech in a specific way, and they often ask about technologies like the ones you see here that facilitate living in a certain environment, maybe help with rehab, or help with assisted living. Go to the next slide. As well as those that help in the healthcare sector. But staying connected in terms of addressing social isolation is really key in terms of healthy aging and connecting with family members and friends. And we obviously saw that highlighted during the pandemic. So when we work with startups in this space, we found that they certainly have seen during the pandemic a greater need around this, and it's given them opportunities to highlight those innovations, and that can apply to different settings as well, and that's what I'll speak to. So next slide, please. So Lee, I saw you're in the audience here. I will be using social robots as an example here. I think that what's great about a solution like social robots and the robot that you see in the picture there is it kind of really creates a friendly interface for people to use in different settings, such as senior living, and it allows them to become engaged with different activities, especially during things like lockdowns or when there is an outbreak and people have fewer options for social types of activities. And I think robots can be a great way to address that. They're obviously something that augments the human touch and human interaction, and we see that with what Lee has done, as well as with some other platforms that we've worked with, including the Temi robot, where you'll have an interface that includes a tablet, and people can interface with it using voice commands, as well as connect with family members. So I think we'll continue to see more of that in different spaces. Obviously, we're seeing some of our partners in senior living take note of that and try to find ways to implement kind of robot-based solutions into their homes. But also, I think increasingly we'll be seeing some people making use of those in their own homes, in their private homes, just as a way to assist them and kind of put a more humanoid, I guess you could say, face to some of the tools that they would otherwise use, like a tablet or a voice assistant. The other example that I have on here is through FamilyNet, and that is a technology that was developed through research that was funded by AgeWell. And it was actually co-created with older adults, including, I know one of the developers of this platform is an older adult himself. So they really understood some of the key needs around this. And for those of you who are not familiar with FamilyNet, it's a platform that allows people to connect with each other, somewhat similar to Facebook, but it's not like a wide open social network. It is kind of creating a family network within it. And it was initially used in senior living settings and veteran centers to allow people living in such facilities to connect with friends and families and get that additional sense of connection. But what happened during the pandemic is they realized that this obviously is a platform that can easily be applied anywhere. And when they saw the challenges with social isolation, what they want to do is to take this co-created platform that's designed with user interfaces and tools that they found when they did the co-creation, older adults responded well to and were willing to use. It could help those people who are maybe in their home and can't see family members in person as much, to connect using this family net platform as well. And so they kind of pivoted and started shifting their focus to also making this available to people living anywhere. And this technology now is also one that we're hoping to kind of test its implementation into some long-term care settings to see if maybe persons living with mild dementia, as well as others living in long-term care, can also benefit from a platform that lets them share memories and connect with their grandkids and things like that in a way that's a little more, I guess if I want to say it this way, privacy protecting or responsive to their preferences and needs than maybe some of the mainstream platforms they would otherwise use. So we're excited to see how that will go as a project, which we might be doing with the City of Toronto. Next slide. And another example of a technology that combines activity with staying connection is To Race With Me, which is kind of an offshoot of a Centivizer project that also came out of age-well research. So what they have done is they initially created this peddler that lets you go through a virtual environment. So obviously, you can use it from your home or within long-term care to kind of see spaces that maybe you had visited before, or maybe where you'd like to travel, but for various reasons you may not be able to. And like you see in the picture, it has either a virtual reality option or just a direct one you see on your screen. But one of the things that they incorporated, and this became especially relevant during the pandemic, and we've seen a lot of interest in different long-term care facilities, is that they set up something like a video chat that you can embed on the same screen. And so when your family member starts to do an exercise or use the peddler, as a caregiver or as a family member, you might get a notification saying like, hey, mom is currently using the peddler. Would you like to do a video chat with her? And then your mom, if you say yes, will have the option of pressing a button to accept a call or not. And it gives people that ability to be active, maybe talk about the scene they're seeing, but also just have a conversation right within that program. And what was important about that in long-term care is, especially with staffing challenges that became even more exacerbated in the pandemic, it can be sometimes challenging to set up calls with people and have a staff member bring a phone in and facilitate that call with your family member, whereas this kind of automates parts of that and allows you to do it that way, which has seen a lot of interest, and we look forward to seeing how this can spread and scale in long-term care. Next slide. So my final example here is more kind of in community settings. So Mintro is a startup that's been part of our affiliate program for a while now. And this was motivated by the founders' kind of experience of trying to help a parent still find opportunities for social connectedness and building friendships, even after retirement and as they age. And so Mintro has been doing that through a platform to create connections, all built around friendship, as well as providing access to different information and resources for older adults to help them with living their best and most active life, irrespective of where they are. And I know that Mintro has done a lot of different work and pilots with groups, with different cultural groups, and with diverse groups of older adults to make sure that you can leverage opportunities to have culturally relevant social engagement, but also just to engage with some of our urban centers where there are a whole host of people with different experiences, aging and living, that are looking for friendships as well. And I know they recently were announced to get some funding to launch a program in the north to create opportunities in those kinds of regions as well for this platform. So that is it for me in terms of some of the examples I gave. All that to say that a lot of startups are looking at the space and trying to find ways that are readily adoptable to help older adults connect. I kind of want to reference this startup map that we put out recently here at the end. This is not comprehensive by any means, and we're excited to see some startups already in the staying connected space. But I think as we continue to learn more about this, and spread the word. We're going to see even more in Canada that are active in helping older adults get connected, and AgeWell will look forward to continuing to support them. So I'll stop there and look forward to any questions.
So thanks there, Michael. And I appreciate, all these innovators. So some of them have joined us today to move the work forward so that, many times we look at staying connected from person to person, but sometimes it's also that ability to connect either an older adult and a caregiver to something of value to them. Okay. So it may not always be a live, connection piece. Okay. So just someone to be able to watch a show or garden, or play a game that they want to play, listen to the music that they want to listen to, not music that someone else has chosen for them. So thank you there. So we have a few questions, a couple here. And the first one, we're getting it from Isabella. And she's interested in how these technologies account for various communication styles. She knows that smart speakers struggle to pick up commands from people with stutters, accents, etc. And she also knows that people with cognitive impairments or various disabilities, verbal commands can be challenging. Michael, your thoughts on how does these technologies account for diversity in communication styles, or maybe they don't? We'll be honest here.
Yeah, it's a great question. And yeah, you always have to be honest in this case. I think that in some cases, the technologies have quite a bit of work to do there to account for that. But we do see solutions that are designed to help give people access, even using different communication styles, that where they will look to allow people to, let's say, go to a coffee shop and put in orders, even if speech may be a challenge for them. So we're seeing startups like that as well. And I think, Ron, you may actually work with one of them. Like I'm thinking of like Recommend, that where they do solutions like that. So are all of these kinds of accessibility features integrated to every technology? No, definitely not. But I think what we're going to continue to see is opportunities for startups to learn and how to do that. And as an example, AgeWell works with ATS labs, or accessibility technology labs, that creates kind of an accelerator or incubator of sorts for startups that try to develop solutions for different populations. And sometimes, just as with age tech, we look at solutions that are designed for specific or general population and say, how can you add some features or improve it to make it more accessible and equitable? And I think there's still work to be done there.
Yeah, agreed. Before I go to the next two questions, and we'll do those quickly there, the next two questions. And I know, Michael, you're not going to be able to join us at the end, so I'll squeeze in a little more time for you here. Just that comment about equity. I've always said technology is never fair when it starts out. Okay, any startup with innovation or technology will miss the whole population, and it's a question of keeping that in mind and evolving so that it becomes more equitable. So yeah, we have to be honest about that there will be some challenges, and not everyone will, it's kind of like that digital divide conversation, the haves and the have-nots, who can get it, who has access to it, who creates it to make it easily accessible. So Michael, a quick question about, are you an Apple, or do you have an iPad? That's my question first. Are you an iPad gentleman?
Not only do I not have an iPad, I've always had a loyalty to ThinkPads because of my engineering background. So
okay.
So I'm an Android person, and ThinkPad.
Okay, the reason I asked, because this is an iPad question, but you can, adjust it as you need to. So can old versions of iPads be used creatively for connecting? So yeah.
Old versions of iPads?
Yeah, so you know how technology keeps upgrading?
Yeah.
What do we do with old technology? Can they be used? I have my answer, but I'm going to let you start this off.
Well, I guess my answer would be, I mean, as long as the technology is still usable and can allow you to use whatever kind of app or feature to help you connect with people, then why not? Like you can still continue to use it. And iPads, I know there's a good buy-in for them. They have more user-friendly features for that, and that was kind of how they were from the early stages, pretty much. So I mean, in general, I would say yes, you can still use it to connect with friends and family in different ways and get access to information and activities too, kind of to your earlier point.
Yeah. So my response is simply it's a tool, right? And it doesn't have to be the most modern, apps. That's usually what happens when tablets start upgrading and you can't use some apps. But it depends on the person. As long as you can get a few apps that work and it connects a person, even just to play music. Okay, so I have some old devices where I've given to people or set it up so they could simply just play some basic music. It's and sometimes it's called recycling it or upcycling it. Some people still have an old record player that's still usable, right? So I'm just converting it from an iPad to any tool that can help someone connect. If you can find that tool or that app, yeah, it could be used. And Michael will go with this one last question here. If you can speak to any intergenerational aspects to these technologies, is the focus on bringing older adults together with other older adults, is another question, or youth with older adults? So just the intergenerational response.
Yeah, I think it's both. So when you talk about FamilyNet, for example, it was meant to connect older adults to family members, but also potentially to other older adults, and that applies to. I mean, a Mintro is kind of forming friendships within your age range, or as with other older adults, but it can be both. And I mean, I'll give another example that maybe ties in your use of a tablet. There's a program up in Nunavut that's being run with an organization that I'm associated with as well. It's called Help Age Canada, and they do a lot of work with all kinds of things related to aging and equity, but also giving access to tools and improving digital literacy. And what they're doing up there is giving people tablets and allowing younger members of Inuit communities to work with elders in their communities to help them use the tablets, and learn to kind of pass on some of their knowledge, and at the same time forming those connections both in person but potentially also through technology. So definitely, I think, like you said, technology is a tool. It can be used both as a tool to do something through its medium, but sometimes also to bring different generations together to teach each other, like not just teach how to use the technology, but for the younger people to learn from older adults as well, and learn from their wisdom. So I think it can also be kind of a common point there that can create bonds. So just want to add that.
Well, so thank you there, Michael, for sharing a little bit more about AgeWell, some of the innovators as well, and appreciate again your time. I know you're going to be heading out, but so thanks, Dr. Michael Chrostowski, for this. And if anyone wants to reach out to him, I'm sure you can find Michael online somewhere there.
So thanks so much. It was great. Thanks for taking the time to listen to me, and look forward to connecting to others here.
Okay, take care there, Michael. So we're going to move on to presenters. Number two, our second group of presenters, actually. There's two of them here. We have Matilde Cervantes from the University of Victoria and Paul Green from CanAssist. And Matilde Cervantes is a second-year PhD student in interdisciplinary studies, sociology and public health at the University of Victoria. And she's a graduate student affiliated with the UVic Institute of Aging and Lifelong Health and the American Psychological Association. Matilde is a senior research assistant in the knowledge implementation for scale-up, spread, and sustainability of assistive technology, known as KISS-AT. I believe I'm saying that, or KISS-AT. I love that, actually, but that's KISS with 3 S's. Research team at UVic. Her research interests include age tech, implementation science, art-based methods, that's cool, and community-based and participatory action research approaches. Now, Paul Green completed his diploma in electronics engineering at Camosun College in 2008 before transferring to the University of Victoria and receiving his Bachelor of Engineering in Electrical Engineering. His prior work experience was in the field of power electronics research and development. Paul joined the CanAssist engineering team full-time in 2011. And as the engineering manager, Paul is responsible for the performance of the engineering team as well as meeting timelines, budgets, and quality standards for all engineering projects. A lot of numbers here, Paul. I know there's a lot of numbers that you deal with. He also works closely with the operations director to provide technical feasibility information. Paul brings considerable expertise to his role, given his extensive background in engineering and product development. And a side note, I've been to CanAssist in University of Victoria back in 2018. Very cool place if you can check it out. And again, if you can just go to Victoria, it's a beautiful place. Probably, I think, my most favorite place in Canada. So I'm going to pass it to both of you to kind of do your presentation there, Matilde and Paul. And go for it.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. And always going to help you with the slides here. So we're going to share screen. Yeah, when we're ready with the slides, we can start. Let's share screen is ready there. And I'm so excited to be here today. It's a very special presentation for me personally, because my mentor and my supervisor and the principal investigator, Karen Kobayashi, of this whole project and leading the KISAT team, unfortunately passed away recently. And so for me, this is the first presentation after that. And I want to honor her spiritual presence and pay tribute to a great mentor in a respectful way and with all of you. And I thank you for that opportunity. So we actually have a very big team for this project. This study is part of a larger Michael Smith Foundation for Health Research Implementation Science team grant-funded project. We have several great partners and advisors as part of this project. I read on the chat some greetings from Shannon Freeman, and thank you, Shannon, and hello. She's one of our great advisors. Yeah, so next slide. I will start with some background information. As we know, we have the context of COVID. And yes, we have three important considerations to take into account. Number one, during COVID-19, mental health challenges increased, especially for older adults in rural and remote settings. Number two, in Canada, older adults usually want to age in place in their own home and community. Aging in place means having the health and social supports as services people need to live safely and independently in their own homes. And number three, there are key assistive technologies that could support aging in place and enhance mental health. So with that, our research question is how a specific tablet-based online communication assistive technology from CanConnect, developed by CanAssist, is able to support the mental health needs of community-dwelling older adults on Vancouver Island during COVID-19. It's a very specific tablet. It's a very specific design with a special case, software, and hardware that has been designed to be so easy to use. Paul Green will expand this information from the tech developer perspective, and CanConnect has been a key piece of our research study. Over to you, Paul.
And yeah, absolutely. Really happy to provide some of the context of the technology itself and sort of set that up for the rest of the presentation. So essentially, CanAssist's approach to developing this CanConnect app was very holistic, meaning we weren't looking just to create the app. We were looking to solve the sort of the complete challenge of making video calls successful for a range of people with varying abilities. Now, that does include seniors, but we also took into account individuals with different physical barriers and cognitive challenges as well. And so the end result is both an app, but also a case that holds the iPad. And this lets us really tailor the experience so someone who is making or receiving a call on the device can only do that, right? It's going to restrict the greater amazing functionality of a mobile device like an iPad, but really ensure that it increases the success and reliability. For anyone else in the ecosystem, they can use their own smartphones or tablets, Android or iOS. but the individual who's benefiting from this technology would be the unit that's pictured here. The other really critical feature is the privacy and security. This was designed for use in the context of connecting people who already had a relationship outside of the app. So you're not able to, say, search for a contact based on their name, and you have to be able to exchange information in a way to link your accounts as contacts, much like a bank, Interact bank transfer. So it really restricts access and ensures that people are only making and receiving calls within their sphere of connected loved ones and caregivers. So what differentiates it from the plethora of video calling applications in the world? Of course, we're all familiar with it, in the last 2 years. But there's some critical differences that really set this the CanConnect system and app apart. So as I said before, the lockdown features. So that is a combination of the design of the app itself, the case, and then the configuration within Apple's iOS settings. Also on the previous slide, you saw the screen and how clear and large each contact is. So a user who likely has a smaller list of contacts doesn't need to scroll through on a smaller screen device and pick out a small picture. You simply touch to make a call or tap anywhere on the screen when there's an incoming call. And there's a further set of features that help tailor it for the individual. For example, automatically answering calls, reducing the number of contacts you see on a screen at any given time, or turning on or off the self-view image. Those were all individual customizing features that ensure it will work for the particular user. And that is a little bit of background on the device. And what we're seeing on this slide is the mobile device version of the app, what we would all be quite familiar with very comparable to other commercial offerings. Over to you, Maddie.
Thank you, Paul. That was great. In terms of methodology, we had 10 participants who used CanConnect for 6 weeks. And we also got some inputs from caregivers. And our study is basically qualitative research, or we have the qualitative approach. So each participant was interviewed 3 times for baseline, follow-up, and exit interview. And data analysis included thematic analysis. So next I'm going to show and share with you the preliminary findings, which are consistent with the literature, but I also enhancing our knowledge regarding the context, very specific, of COVID-19 and the rural settings. So next slide. CanConnect addresses mental health needs. For example, social isolation, stress, anxiety, and loneliness. All of those have been mentioned by our participants. And CanConnect has been helping them to enhance their social connections with their loved ones. I want to highlight the stress and anxiety as one of the 2 main mental health issues that people express, especially during COVID-19 and lockdowns and restrictions. And the use of CanConnect supported their mental health in different ways. And it has been evolving, and because we have been having so many waves of COVID-19 and different circumstances, we have been having some longitudinal inputs, also insights. And so far right now, we are seeing how the social network has been increasing in a particular rural community that we're working in. And they are creating actually a senior center hub with the CanConnect and then the network all around the community. So in addition to these benefits, we are also finding that CanConnect also contributes to tackle the digital divide and enhances the digital literacy. For example, participants also have been experiencing more comfortability and confidence using assistive technology while using CanConnect. Finally, and importantly, the motivational, educational, and human components are crucial for acceptability and usability of CanConnect by older adults. The motivation to connect with their loved ones and being able to see them. This part of seeing is so like critical, and they have been expressed like, hey, we want to see our grandchildren's growing up and our family members that maybe live in another city or abroad. I wish I know about this before. Kids are growing fast. I don't want to miss their faces and smiles. I want to be able to see them. So CanConnect has been given this opportunity. And then the educational component and training are also crucial. And with them, it comes patience, compassion, and dignity. And I will say that maybe there are other pedagogical implications to this for further exploration and future research. But the human component, definitely, it's crucial. And without the human component, technology is not what we expect to be in its full potential. As a conclusion, I will say that remaining, and we can go to the next slide, Paul, thank you. Remaining socially connected is especially important for older adults living in rural and remote settings in order for them to successfully age in place and stay healthy, socially active, and independent. CanConnect offers face-to-face communication that supports the mental health needs of community-dwelling older adults and contributes to their well-being, resilience, and quality of life. CanConnect has been an effective technology-based communication solution for older adults to stay connected to their support networks while contributing positively to their mental health. Next slide, please. And I think I just say what is there, but I can tell you that these two photos are two of our participants using CanConnect, and they have been really improving in the comfortability and confidence of using it. And next slide. As I mentioned it, we have so many partners and advisors. I couldn't include all of the logos here, but these are some of them, and we are really grateful to be working not only with these partners, but with the community. That's the most important, at least for me as a researcher and with a community-based approach. Community has been essential, and working with them has been an honor. Thank you so much.
Paul, it's one of the things is that the title of your project here, CanConnect, actually has connect in it right away. So that's an easy reason why we brought you on board here today. And there's a good discussion here that I think we're going to go into later when we have more time afterwards about the rural piece. Let's say that for later because I don't want to bring in my questions yet. So a few questions here. So number one from Lee, was internet access a challenge during the pilot study, or did you use a hotspot? So this could be connected to a rural conversation as well. But.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. We actually had some people, participants without internet access, and we provided as part of the study. And then we have been also in touch with the community hub and the community senior center to keep supporting them beyond the time of the study. So definitely it's a need that we identified and we try to address. Yeah.
Yeah. That is just accessibility across, Canada, even internationally. I know BC. If someone from Angel can help me out with our other hub over there, I'm forgetting the name at this moment. That
CTAN?
Yes, thank you, CTAN. But if someone can actually put words to CTAN, I'm not sure. Those are just letters. So if someone can help that as well, that'd be appreciated. But I know that the ability to connect. BC, you guys do a lot of work around this rural piece. So coming back to that.
And I have to mention, and I can share with you and with everyone, that also the poverty levels that we found also are surprisingly high. And that makes it hard because many of these seniors are living with a small amount, fixed amount of money, and then to decide like, okay, I'm going to use this for internet, but it's $80 a month or $100 a month. So they really struggle with that decision. But some of them are actually valuing like, hey, well, but I will be connected to my family abroad, and that's worth it. But definitely, I was kind of surprised with those, those numbers around the social economic status.
Matilda, that's an excellent point to bring up that has to be brought up in more conversations, because we could all talk about the technology and the tools, but if we can't afford it or if someone can't get access and it's not fair, that's where some of the policy work needs to change as well. And that's where AgeWell has been doing a great deal of policy work. Our East Coast hub is also working on that, which I'm having a moment of what, who's our East Coast, the policy team over there. APTA, yes, another bunch of letters, but we'll type that in what that stands for in a second here. Yeah, go ahead, Matilda.
Yeah, and we have been very lucky that we have the support of CanAssist and the overall study, so we could, we were able to provide for free these devices, and we actually have been receiving more requests, and CanConnect is doing their best on their end in order to keep that sustainable enthusiasm about the device and offer it also without any cost for the seniors. So that equity component is definitely a priority for us, but we can see that for all others or in another time or circumstances, it's not easy to make it happen, right?
Yeah, just since we bring up CanAssist, I'll just sneak in another question here for Paul. So like CanAssist, you guys do, the team there, all of you, does great work to make sure you try and get it to as many people as possible, right? Can you comment on that?
I'll comment, and I think maybe just provide a tiny piece of background for those that aren't familiar with our organization. So as a non-commercial entity and part of the University of Victoria, when we develop a technology, our primary goal is impact and reach with available resources. So, you know, a device like CanConnect, you know, could very possibly have a commercial future. But our goal at this point is to expand the reach with available funding. So we are, you know, we look for philanthropic sources or partnerships with local community organizations or even local government, where perhaps there's an opportunity to support a deployment, you know, where it wouldn't be possible for those individuals to afford a technology like CanConnect.
Yeah.
Of course, that has limits, right? There's going to be a point at which it comes down to how much does this cost to operate. But for a current window, we're able to continue to operate the platform and look for those opportunities to cover the cost. Yeah.
One key word you said is the ability to bring in community, right? That you guys are doing. That's one model that I do really respect, the community support to help each other. So thank you there, Paul. I'm going to jump to another couple questions here. This one is for you there, Maddie. Many older people I know don't want to say they find anxiety or social isolation is a challenge. Do you have suggestions to help people to reach out for projects like CanConnect? So these are the ones that don't say,
well, as I mentioned it, the community-based approach or participatory action research has been key in order to build that relationship with the community and the members of the community, and also to build that trust. And then after you have developed that relationship and that trust, you can talk about these uncomfortable things in an open way. So I guess maybe some steps back in order to develop that relationship and trust, and then you can gather that information. I don't know if it's answering the question, but that's what it came to my mind.
Sounds like for me it does, but if I think that was Nancy that asked, you can chime in there, Nancy, if you have any follow-up. I know this is for you there, Maddie, but I think I'll pass it to Paul here because it could be a technical question. Can these devices, Paul, be shared and used in a community center or a congregate living facility?
Sure, great question. Really simple answer. The app that is running on the mobile device has an account associated with it. So if there was a situation where multiple people were to use it, it would be important that there was a structure outside of the app to ensure that an account was signed out of and then an account was signed back in. It doesn't automate that process, and it can't validate someone coming up to it to determine if they're the right user. So the platform could certainly support that as long as there was that, call it manual structure outside of the app. But that's a great question and something that we definitely have thought about.
Thanks, Paul. Okay, so I'm going to ask one more question, but the last one I want to save for a little later. And Paul, if we can hold off on the last question, or one of these questions for later, because I think it's going to go into a deep dive about speaking to the value of working with researchers, okay, on projects like this. So we'll save that for later. But Maddie, last question here for now. Although your device and app is secure, what are the concerns when it comes to digital safety, and how can we mitigate these concerns?
What is about the safety?
Yeah, let's say digital safety. Any comments on digital safety from your participants or even on yours? Yeah.
Yeah, well, and maybe Paul can add to this, but also like, because this device is only going to be working as a CanConnect device, you don't really go into any other website or any other risk that can take you to a web page that you don't want or something risky. It's only about, it's very secure and it takes care of that privacy. So I don't identify at the first any type of risk on that safety, at least in the virtual world, right? Maybe in the physical world, well, we have been taking care of some other technical issues like the brightness of the screen, where do you locate it in their homes. So we actually also had an interview and an assessment of the space to find together the best place to locate that device. In one of the considerations was the safetiness, looking for that to ensure it for the older adult, of course.
So, Paul, I'm going to ask for a pause on this because I actually want to bring this up also in the group chat afterwards. The general conversation about safety with digital technologies when people are trying to get connected, because there's us, the good guys and the good gals and the good community that's trying to connect, okay, with older adults and caregivers, but there's also the bad people that's trying to use the tools to connect and take advantage. So let's hold off on that for a nicer conversation. I just realized that would be so great question there. So if someone from AgeWell can help us on the team behind this, remind me on some of these items there. Appreciate it. So thank you again. I know Maddie and you go by Matilde to honor, was it your grandma? You go, yeah, grandma, but you go also with Maddie. So we're jumping back and forth. But Matilde was to stay connected to grandma with that name, right? So there's that connection piece. And Paul, I'm not sure if there's a connection to any family members with your name, but I'm sure there is somewhere. So thank you, both of you, and we'll come back to you in a few minutes here. Okay, so thanks there. So on to our next presenter, someone who I know very well. Presenter number 3 is Hector Perez from the University of Waterloo. And I've had the pleasure of hanging out with Hector recently. Hector is a postdoctoral fellow in the School of Public Health Sciences, Faculty of Health, and a member of the Games Institute at the University of Waterloo. So I'm all about games, and we can talk about games a lot. He works under the supervision of Lily Liu, Dean Lily Liu, and Antonio Miguel Cruz in the Aging and Innovation Research Program. He researches the risk factors associated with missing incidents involving persons living with dementia. Hector's research interests include exploring the acceptance, usability, and adoption of innovations and age tech solutions used by older adults and caregivers. He served as president of the AgeWell HQP Advisory Committee from 2021 to 2022. So well done there, Hector. And so the HQP is for a lot of the trainees up and coming. Hector, you can even comment on that in a second here if you can, just a 10-second. Yeah, so I'm going to pass you on to Hector. This is a special topic to me, Hector. As you know, we've chatted about it. I've supported him and their team on this research, but it's because the reason I'm in this space is because my dad, the first challenge we figured, or I actually realized when he had his dementia after 4 or 5 years, was he started to go missing. And I didn't realize how serious that was until we needed the police. Okay. And I personally do a lot of work with some others on this call. I think, a friend of ours, Paul Lee, well-known living with dementia. I think you might be in this call, Paul, listening in. You're also on some teams that to make sure people make it home safely. Okay. So we do know people that have not made it home safely, and some are still missing to this day. So it is some serious work that you're doing. And again, I'm going to pass it now to Hector, and I look forward to this.
1 moment.
Okay. Go for it, Hector. Yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Ron, for that introduction. All right. So I guess you can see my screen now. Okay. Hello and welcome, everyone. My name is Hector Perez, and the title of my presentation is Usability of a Mobile Technology to Support Caregivers of Older Adults and Persons Living with Dementia in Care Facilities. This project is particularly important because it is an example of an age-tech solution to staying connected during the pandemic, but also this technology evaluation involved partnerships with a care provider and a technology company, and all within an inter and transdisciplinary collaboration. So I want to start by introducing my team. We're the Aging and Innovation Research Program at the University of Waterloo, and the project was led by Dr. Lily Liu and Dr. Antonio Miguel Cruz. And I'm humbled to share this presentation with you on behalf of our team. And I also would like to introduce our partners, Winky Care Centers, fantastic care provider located in Calgary, Alberta, and CanAssist CMR, a technology company with expertise in electronic medical records established in Edmonton, Canada. And this project was funded by Alberta Innovates and the Center for Aging and Brain Health Innovation. So during this talk, we'll touch on the use of age tech solutions to support healthy aging and caregivers' activities and responsibilities. For example, in the case of healthcare aids, these technologies can support workflows, care plan management, and communication between different care providers. And from the family caregiver perspective, we observe the importance of these technologies to support communication between the family and the care center, and how these technologies can engage families and friends within the circle of care of persons living with dementia and seniors living in care facilities. So in this presentation, we would like to share and highlight how this type of age tech, in this case, a mobile technology, could improve the quality of care for persons living in a care facility. And although there are many different examples of age tech, still healthcare aides and family caregivers face multiple challenges when it comes to usability and adoption of these technologies. So for this reason, the purpose of this study was to investigate the technology acceptance and usability of this mobile application used in a real-world environment used by healthcare aides and family caregivers. So the Smart Care system, that's the technology solution, require a preliminary step, which was the customization. So we customized this application in collaboration with CanAssist, but with the long-term care facility, Winky Care Centers. And this mobile application includes two models. The first one is for healthcare aides, where they were able to see and follow up with the care plans and track observations. And one model for family caregivers, where they receive updates about their loved ones, particularly about recreation activities and care plans and observations. For example, whether if the person was sleeping or eating, and etc. So the study was a mixed method study, and for this evaluation, we use, in fact, we use a sequential mixed method study, which the quantitative phase came first, and then the qualitative. And we include the pre and post paper-based questionnaires. We evaluate this technology, the acceptance and usability using questionnaires, including a 5-point Likert scale, ranging from disagree 1 to agree 5. And we include items that were validated in previous research as having high levels of internal consistency for the unified theory of acceptance and use of technology constructs. I will explain this theory in a bit. In total, we had 60 healthcare aides and 27 family caregivers who participated in this project, evaluating the Smart Care system for over a month. For analysis, we compared summative scores of the unified theory of acceptance and use of technology at pre-test and post-test. And we use partial least squares, a structural regression model, to determine the factors influencing the acceptance and usability of this technology. Finally, towards the end of the study, 4 focus groups were conducted with a subsample of 12 healthcare aides and 16 family caregivers. So the unified theory of acceptance and use of technology, UTOT, is a technology acceptance model formulated by Venkatesh and others, and it's useful to explain someone's intention to use technology and the subsequent usage behavior. The theory holds that there are 4 key components. One is performance expectancy, how the technology helps the user to achieve their goals. 2, effort expectancy, or how easy is the technology to use. And the third component is social influence. If other people's opinion influence users' behavior. The fourth component is facilitating conditions. If the user has the skills and hardware or tools to use the technology. And finally, behavioral intention. If the person will or would not use the technology, and user behavior, if the person will continue to use or not the technology. So regarding the results, I'll start by the demographics of our participants. First, healthcare aides. Participants were 46 years old on average, and almost all of them were male, with 7.4 years of experience as healthcare aides. And regarding family caregivers, their average age was 57 years, with 6 years of experience as a caregiver. 44.5% were male and 55.6% were female. Most of them were caring of their mother, father, and grandmother. In terms of usability, our findings suggest that the healthcare aides, that the smart care system was useful for healthcare aides, but also portable and reliable. Performance expectancy, or the usefulness of the system, was the only predictor of intention to use the smart care system, and intention to use the smart care system predicted actual use. And for family caregivers, behavioral intention and facilitating conditions, such as their skills and the existing or organizational and technical resources, influence the use of the smart care system. Participants report that the smart care system was portable, simple, and functional. And finally, participants of this evaluation observe opportunities for improvement, of course. For example, the ability to have additional features in this technology, but also they suggest some minor additions to the user interface. And participants recognize that having access to information about residents, care plans, and health status was important to support their workflows and activities in the case of healthcare aides. And on the other hand, for family caregivers, they observe how family interactions and the engagement in care activities could be increased by using the smart care system, especially during the pandemic. And we observe how the ease of use encouraged the technology adoption of the smart care system. So finally, I would like to speak a little bit of the impact of using a technology like this. And I would say that this kind of technologies, H-Tech technologies, are really important to staying connected, but also important because we involve 2 principal components within the circle of care of older adults and persons living with dementia, healthcare aides, and family caregivers. But I'll stop talking and let the participants share with you the impact of this H-Tech project in a short video that we prepare for you. Thank you.
We can't hear it, Hector. I know it worked before. Let's pause and see if we can get that to work.
You can hear the video?
We can't hear the video, no.
Oh, sorry. Let me reshare again.
We did test this, but...
All right, it's coming. I hope it works this time.
Great.
That technology is very important to me because I need for the documentation, care of the residents.
It helps me do a proper care to my residents.
I participate this project because I want to learn more. I want to have more knowledge in order to share to my coworker.
So I can improve the way I care for my residents. My experience is fun, but I need to learn more so I can elaborate my mind.
This technology is easier for me to documentation, especially when we're going to our break. We can bring the new technologies, not carrying big one like laptop, but this technology, that small thing, it's easier for us to bring anywhere we want to go.
I really feel that the technology that was presented in this research project is very important. I feel that it not only enhances communication between the patient, staff, and family members, but I also think that with this communication, it enhances patient care, especially in a situation where family members may not be living in the same geographic area. That's so important. It's quicker rather than phoning a portal that patients' families can sign up for and get up-to-date information 24 hours a day. That is good for the patient's family to receive that information, but also is good for the staff because you're not tying up staff time. And similarly, if you have something to convey to the staff, you could always use technology for that benefit as well. I think that's very important. The importance underlined during the pandemic, because during the pandemic, when family members were actually not allowed into the facilities for a year and a half, our only means of communication was through technology. I could see the potential that this product would have. This is a great project and I hope it really takes off.
When we recruit our staff, we always look for their heart, the kindness, and the caring because we wanted to make sure we serve the seniors, particularly with individualized care and personalized care. In the last 2 years, when we experienced about pandemic, we are all more aware of the care that we wanted to provide for the seniors. I think this is kind of a voice for a lot of the people. They want qualified staff. They wanted to have personalized care, to have more freedom and more choice for long-term care. I think that is what we are looking for the future of long-term care and the seniors care. In Winky, we were one of the early adopters doing the electronic documentation when we started probably around 2007. And at that time, it was not easy. But we have this vision about if we put it in the electronic documentation, then it's kind of the care plans, the medication, the communication all flow in one place. Now we can use the iPad or the technology for communication and enhance the communication with families and also letting the families to engage with some of the things that people would say, well, how do I know that what grandma is doing, right? And then now the technology brings the whole family. So sometimes we will see seniors that they're talking to their grandsons from Australia, from Toronto. So you want to have that kind of communication with our seniors. So when I talked to University of Waterloo, talked to Dr. Lily Liu, and then we were so excited that we were able to put the academic institutions and also the developers. I think it's every partner that actually be able to put in their best and then come up and develop this technology that at the end, I can see that it's going to be a very useful for the community, for the seniors.
All right, thank you very much. That was it.
Hey, Hector. So first off, congratulations on that wonderful video. I'm personally a fan when videos are utilized to tell the story, to make that connection even much more stronger, because we're, as much as I love to hear you speak there, Hector, it's actually more appreciated when you get to hear the stories from those that have actually been participants and are getting that impact. So I am a huge fan of the work you're doing, just to clarify with some people across Canada. So healthcare aides is also known as personal support workers in other provinces or PSWs. So I put that in the chat there just in case some people might say, well, what are healthcare aides? And my family used healthcare aides or personal support workers here in the Toronto area. And I'm still near and dear to those that did care for my dad many years later after his passing. We still go out for meals. So it's huge. They're part of the care team. Many times they've been forgotten, but during the pandemic, a lot of people realized the importance of HCAs, healthcare aides and PSWs. So the work you're doing to improve that connection, okay, because there's a lot of gaps there that I knew that they struggle as well. So that connection piece isn't simply just connecting with the end user, which there is a question here that's coming up on the end user piece. but it's actually just connecting the care team sometimes together, so that can the care team be connected. So the question, I might need some clarification on this because I'm going to reinterpret it, but the one from Andrew is, how important is it to consider end users when it comes to evaluating the acceptance and usability of a technology like this one? So the definition of end user could be up in the air here. So the end user could be the healthcare aide. It could be, actually the person receiving it, let's say, could have been my father. So I'm not sure there, but I'll let you interpret that there.
Right. I think I understand. So I think that's a very good question. The importance of having the end users, in this case, family caregivers, but on the other hand, having healthcare aides providing feedback and having a voice, right? So I think in this type of projects is really important because we as researchers, and when we do the technology evaluation, we learn so much from them. This like from the simple things, but also from the more complex things. For example, there was a family caregiver who said, "Hey, Hector, could you increase like simple things, right? The font size in the user interface, or I would like to have a calendar, if possible. Can you play with this idea and at the end make it possible?" So that kind of thing is the opportunity that we have when we have connection and interactions with the end users, in this case, family caregivers and healthcare aides, because Ron, sometimes when technology developers engage in a new product, in a new age tech technology, they don't really listen to the end user, right? The person who will use the technology at the end. And I think that's the most important person, who has to have a voice and say, hey, this is what I need, or this is completely different what I was expecting from you. So let's say in summary, it's very, very important. It's essential. I think it's critical to have their voices involved throughout the process of technology development, but also implementation, which is a critical step.
So Hector, you said a key piece. So yes, definitely the easy answer is yes, that the end user should always be somewhere sharing their voice. But you said that key piece, that can someone listen from the other side? Okay, the innovators, the developers, the researchers, whoever that is. Okay, as much as they might be speaking their voice, I'll be the end user here. And if you're not hearing me, okay, it's just kind of like, yes, you're hearing it, but you're actually not really hearing and listening and getting those key points. That's where failure happens, Hector. And I'm glad you bring that up. It's something I think we should talk about in another session, just the skills it takes to be the receiver, okay,
right,
during the connection, okay. So connecting isn't all about just one way. It's a connection the other side as well. And many times there could be that, we're connecting here, but if the other side isn't hearing it, if you didn't acknowledge, if you're not nodding your head, then I don't feel like we're connected. So that's key there. So thanks there, Hector there. So the next question, and this one I'm going to carry over to also our group chat in a second here, but do you mind commenting on the challenges of implementing this study during COVID-19 and how you overcame those challenges? So this is not just for you, Hector. This is how many researchers out there struggled. Right. Yeah.
Well, so that's a very good question as well. Thank you. Appreciate that. There were many challenges, because we implement the project in a long-term care facility where the risk of getting COVID is higher, right? So we had to be very, very careful. We have to follow all the procedures. We have to be mindful that was a high risk for us as researchers. I was there at Winky, and I was of course I received training on how to use the PPE, the personal protection equipment, because there's not like the ones that we use, like face masks and stuff, the ones that we use at home, but they have also face masks, face shields, and stuff like that. Or like the fact that I was receiving twice per week COVID-19 test in the long-term care facility, only for being allowed to be there on site, interacting with the participants. So that was one of the challenges. How I overcome that one with training, learning, educating myself, respecting the protocols, following each of the new guidelines that appeared, that during COVID was really challenging. But something very important that our team, that Professor Liu implemented with us, was some sort of contingency plans and very wide communication, I will say live and real-time communication with our partners, not only with the technology developer, but also with the care facility. In terms of our plans, because during COVID many of the plans change, so we need to adjust, and that's something really important for us as researchers, having contingency plans. And if plan A is not coming like we planned it's going to be, we have to have B, C, D, and in times of COVID, F, D, G, and whatever else, right? So that was a really good learning for us. And the last challenge that I will comment on is the ability to recruit participants during COVID. So we overcome this challenge mainly because of we were really supported by the long-term care facility, but also we engage and recognize their time, approved by the ethics committee. We offer our participants some stipend. It was $25 for participating in the study. But I think it's something really important when it comes to caregivers. You can that, Ron, for sure. It's really important to acknowledge their time and their contribution, because it's really important, and we really want to have their voices in our technology evaluation.
No, great. Thanks there, Hector. I'm going to ask you one more question before we bring back Maddie and Paul. And this question is about cultural inclusion. So did you consider cultural inclusion in the device design? And if so, how? And if not, how might you work on this in the future? So where are you at with cultural inclusion?
Right, that's a very good question as well. Well, Winky Care Center is a culturally sensitive care facility, as you can see in the video. They had in the past, right, but now it's more open. They had in the past more oriented to Chinese as a background, right, as an ethnic background users. So from the very beginning, we learned that for this specific community, family is really important. The circle of care, not only son, grandson, but the friends of the resident living in the care facility is really important. So we were very careful of including this component in our project. Of course, we have to learn so much. We still have to learn so much in terms of language, right? Because we did not translate the software to Chinese. That's something that we acknowledge that we can do in the future, have multiple versions of the software to improve this culturally sensitiveness in terms of our technology.
Okay, no, thanks, Hector. No, that's a huge topic going around. It should have been there a long time ago, but just as we age, that culture piece, that again, person-centered piece, all that. So thanks for sharing that. So I'm going to bring both Paul and Maddie back for the last, let's say, 10 or so minutes here, just with a few follow-up questions and discussions, more from my end. So Paul, the first one's back to you. Earlier is the ability to work with researchers. Okay, so you're coming from an engineering background, you're separate from the university. Well, you're separate technically, but do you like working with researchers? What do you like? What don't you like? This is the time you could share.
All right. Okay. So in the like category, which is extensive. So yes, absolutely. It is a net benefit to us as an organization, and I hope we are, that's reciprocal on the research team as well. So here's where I think we see, not that it's a pass off, right? There isn't this hard line where, say, CanAssist stops with its efforts to solve a challenge in the world of accessibility and technology, but there's often this. A lot of our work is based on the responding to a request. So we build in research and development work, but we don't necessarily build in the the larger scale assessment of the device. So the huge value to us is seeing the results of a project like this, Maddie and team's work, and then being able to essentially reintegrate that learning back into not just CanConnect, but CanAssist's overall technology development process. So it's amazing when our device is in fact, the non-human component of a research project. Yes, we absolutely benefit. And maybe on a smaller scale, another benefit is just having more people involved. There are more people that are aligned with what we are doing. We're aligned with what they're doing in the community, meeting people, making connections. I mean, the old adage, right, is who you know, not what you know. And that definitely extends into this partnership that we've had.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful there, because many times when it comes to connection, someone did ask that question about when you're kind of socially isolated or on your own and you're not getting support from others, it's going to be a harder battle to move the work forward, versus when you're working with others, a larger team, that's much more powerful many times for the most part. So I'll leave that other list off, what you don't like. We won't have to go into that right now, but I'm sure it's very small there. But I'm going to come back to our two researchers. And I know that there's some young researchers, some, trainees also here, probably listening in. So for Maddie and Hector, I'd like to kind of get your perspective of connecting with the community or with these other groups and stakeholders. I'm not curious of what went well. I'm curious, what were the challenges you have? What's the struggle with those connections? Because that work that you do, may not be seen directly with the stakeholders, like with my dad or myself, but it is part of that path of the connection piece. If people are following the dots, connecting them, if you can't connect properly, or don't have the skills or whatever, I'm curious if you have any advice for other academics and researchers listening in about where do we struggle with connections, with, possibly with a Paul, or a Ron. So we'll start with you there, Maddie. Yeah. Yep. Go ahead. Yeah. Sorry, Maddie.
Okay. Sure. I guess as we know, in this society, time and money are critical for almost everything. And sometimes our research project, they can have a certain budget and a certain timeline that could become a constraint when you are building relationships with community, because that does require time, and not just any time. It needs to be quality time, and it needs to be authentic, real. And so for us, to develop that relationship and trust with the community during COVID was challenging, because how do you do it when you are doing it virtually, like, for example, right? And then sometimes some of the members of the community are not really familiar with Zoom or Skype or other platforms. So then we had the chance to have phone calls with them, because that was the preferred way to do it for some of them. But that was challenging. And then also, especially for me with my accent also, I'm originally from Mexico, and I always prefer to be in video because I can use my body language and I can use other resources. But over the phone, like, hey, sometimes also they have older adults in those communities where we work. I found many of them have challenges with hearing challenges. So the phone wasn't the best for many reasons, like the hearing challenge, my accent, the first encounter. So we really decided, like, we need to go there. We need to go in person to the community. But we were very lucky that there was a window between COVID-19 waves when everything opened up around last November or December. And that's when, as soon as that happened, with all the protocols of taking care of everyone, of course, but we went in person. And it is not very close to Victoria. It's a 8 hours drive. So it takes time, it takes money, but we really prioritize that in-person connection to really start building what came next. Yeah, so that's what I can share with you.
Eddie, that's huge. That the connection piece. I like how you, as a researcher, is bringing up the ability for trust, the relationship piece. Okay, that it's not as cold. Sometimes that people think researchers, I thought a long time ago researchers are kind of just this, but I've developed so many relationships. So, like Hector here, as you're going to share your thoughts, I am curious about
Sure.
that. And then after that, we'll do one quick roundabout with a very short answer to a question I'm going to have. One tip you guys have about connecting with older adults and caregivers afterwards. So just think about that as your last answer. But go ahead, Hector, on this other question.
I'll be brief.
Yeah.
So yeah, one of the in terms of connection, I totally agree with Mati. For example, for us was a challenge to translating the expectations of our partners, right? Because the long-term care, the staff, the CEO, the director of care, they have expectations about this project, and how you translate that is a critical skill, and how you translate that to the technical side because of the developers, they know very well what they got to do because they are experts, right? They know how to program software, how to electronic medical records, and so on. But they sometimes they don't understand why you need this, right? Why the families need this and that. Why you want to see like a window with your family meals per day. So that kind of thing, or that's I think was a key ability, connecting based on trust with our partner and translating these expectations and these requirements to our technology developer. So that was really important. And on top of that, we have to acknowledge that healthcare aides, Ron, personal support workers, they face multiple challenges when it comes to technology adoption. Not only because they still are in some places under-regulated, but they would like to have a voice, and they need to have a voice in terms of new technologies that they will use for the daily activities. So
yeah. So connection is with all the other team members that are supporting older adults and caregivers. So thanks there, Hector. So I'm going to come from Paul to Maddie, then back to Hector. If you guys have one sentence or no more than two, maybe, on just a little tip around what would you suggest to people of staying connected, or just anything that you'd like to share. So, Paul?
Can I use one of my sentences to make sure I understand the question? Just kind of wide open. What do we think? Maybe it's advice. Maybe it's just an impression.
It could be advice, impression, just any comment around connecting with older adults and caregivers.
Okay.
Whatever you'd like to share. Yeah.
From the perspective of technology, be patient and remove any preconceptions that you have around your familiarity with technology or a process or something specific like an app. Wipe it away. Just start fresh.
Beautiful.
That's worked for me sometimes.
Thank you. Okay. And then I'll go to you there. Okay, Hector, you can go next.
Or
I saw the finger. So you go for it, Hector. Yeah. Oh, Hector, you muted yourself.
Meaningful?
Oh, sorry. Maybe you didn't. Go for it, Hector. Yeah.
Okay. I will say just do what is meaningful for people, and what is do inclusive design when you do this H-Tech innovations.
Nice, sweet. And Maddie, last word to you here.
Sure. Be genuine, interested, listen, and spend time with them. And if you can use the resource of online communication, do it.
Beautiful. So thank you to all three of you again today here, as well as Michael, who was on with us earlier, and to all of you for spending the past 90 minutes or whenever you joined us to listen to our conversation on staying connected, specifically with older adults and caregivers. AgeWell will have a recording of this. Please share that if you can. And a heartfelt thank you to all of you again, everybody here today, for taking the time as we were connected to each other and learning and giving some advice and some tips and going from there. So again, all of you take care, and wishing you all the best for today and the rest of this week. And join the other 2 sessions that are coming up, I think, in the next 2 days. Okay. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.